What's up, Internet World? We're the News 19 Nerds. I'm Leroy.
I'm Michael.
Welcome to the B-Sides.
B-Sides.
So we know you guys are self-quarantining and working from home a lot, so we decided to come up with a video of some things you might not have known about, or maybe you didn't check out on
different streaming services.
So we did shows on Hulu and Netflix.
Yep.
Now we're doing movies.
On Hulu. And we'll get to Netflix.
Eventually.
Eventually, yeah.
So right now, my first pick is a movie called Housemaid. Right now, everybody's loving the whole the idea behind Parasite, the whole idea behind the haves and the have-nots.
The upstairs and the downstairs.
Here's a movie called Housemaid. It's along the same lines. Basically, here's the tagline: a man's affair with his family's housemaid leads to dark consequences. So basically, Tony, I want to get this guy's name right because where is it? Jung. I was about to say Tony Lung, but it's not. Because yes. All right. Jung Jae Lee is the guy who is the main guy.
Okay.
They hire a housemaid. She's rather attractive, but she's from a lower class, we should say, and she works in this wonderful house, a la Parasite, with these rich people, and his character is kind of a ladies' man. He starts having an affair with the housemaid. The wife finds out. Housemaid does not go quietly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So basically the things you think are going to happen don't happen. Okay. And then when you're like, oh, what? That happens. So if you like Parasite and you're looking for something new, this is also, I'm going to be honest with you guys, Korean cinema really tackles some very interesting subject matter. Korean cinema has always been at the forefront of cinema, and this is another one of their movies. Now, keep in mind, this movie came out in 2010. Along the lines of what we were talking about before was Parasite, and the director behind that, he did Snowpiercer, Okja, and another movie, The Host and Mother. So a lot of his movies, not same director, but a lot of Korean cinema, they tackle so many different genres and topics that if you don't like this particular movie or one particular movie, there is one that's out there for you.
I like the good, the bad, and the weird.
See, I like that one, but I don't like it as much as I like some of these. Okay. And so that's why I say, so for me, The Housemaid is one of those ones that I'm like, check this out.
Okay. My first movie on my list, I'm going to be a little bit lighter here, is Back in Time. It is and I realize a bunch of my movies that I picked are a bunch of documentaries.
Oh.
Back in Time talks about the cultural impact of Back to the Future and Robert Zemeckis and all his stuff.
You mean that bad movie that is Back to the Future?
You don't like Back to the Future? I don't think we've definitely never talked about this.
He tried to sleep with it. His mom tried to sleep with him.
I mean, Michael J. Fox is J. Fox is a fox.
I have two problems with Back to the Future. I think the movie itself is okay. I have two problems with that movie. His mom tried to sleep with him, and white people did not invent rock and roll. I have a very big problem with that.
I mean, valid points.
Now, other than that, I'm okay.
Valid points.
I will say John Mulaney breaks down Back to the Future better than anybody else.
But whether you like it or not, I don't think you can disagree with its cultural significance.
No, I cannot.
In terms of, I mean, it helped popularize the DeLorean.
Oh,
the DeLorean.
You know it's coming back.
Yeah. The DeLorean Motor Company. I mean, people love that car because of that movie.
Yep.
In terms of people dealing with like funny sci-fi stuff because of that movie, you got Christopher Lloyd, who was great. Michael J. Fox, great.
First of all, Christopher Lloyd, underrated. Woo!
He's always great.
Man, he's awesome.
But this documentary kind of talks to some people who helped create the movie. I don't remember if they talked to Robert Zemeckis or not, because it's been a while since I've seen it. But it was a fun.
Kind of be important.
Yeah, I know, and I can't remember. But I mean, they talked to people who were in the movie. They also talked to fans, people who started like a DMC or DeLorean Motor Club Company, Motor Company fan club.
Yeah.
It just talks to a bunch of different people. I think it's a fun, little lighthearted documentary. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and it's just fun to talk about science fiction.
Oh yeah, I love
fun science fiction.
I love that movie, and I always felt like Doc was underused. Yeah. Like Christopher Lloyd's character in that movie, and like I said, I like the movie. Don't add me. I don't want to hear it because you're stupid. But I just had a problem with those two things. I was like, it was so cringeworthy when his mom tried to sleep with him, and I was like, no. I was like,
it's wild.
It was that just really, I'll never forget that. Was it Crispin Glover or?
Yes, he was the dad.
Oh man, I miss him. Yeah. I really feel like he has not been given his just due in Hollywood. Yeah, good documentary pick.
Yeah.
Following Michael's, my number 2 documentary pick is The Rise and Fall of Eliot Spitzer. Client number 9.
Haven't seen that.
Ooh, you hadn't? Mm-mm. Do you know what the story's about?
Tell me.
So, little backstory. Eliot Spitzer was a Democratic governor. He used to be a district attorney. He did a lot of things when it came to prosecuting people on Wall Street. Mm-hmm. He was really popular. He was a no-nonsense prosecutor. People loved him. He, again, went on to be governor of New York. Was involved in a little scandal. He was Client 9. Prostitution it was.
Okay.
So here's this guy who was the top cop who made his whole living on being this paragon.
Justice.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he is down and dirty with hookers.
Okay.
And it wasn't just one. So here, on March 10, 2008, the New York Times reported that the governor of New York, Eliot Spitzer, had patronized a prostitution ring run by an escort service known as the Emperor's Club VIP. During the course of an investigation into the Emperor's Club VIP, the federal government became aware of Spitzer's involvement with prostitutes due to a wiretap. Following the public disclosure of his actions, Spitzer resigned as governor effective March 17, 2008. Now, this is what's so interesting about it is because one of my favorite shows of all time is the original Law and Order. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if you remember, towards the end, Jack McCoy became the district attorney because of the governor. The governor was played by, I can't remember what his name is. Who was the guy they used to call he looked like a young Tom Hanks. Had the curly hair. Oh, what is his name?
Nope. Can't help you.
Oh, man. But basically they parried the whole Eliot Spitzer thing almost in real time to what was going on into Law and Order.
Okay.
And then it just spun out of control. So basically the whole idea was Eliot Spitzer, who became the governor of New York, there were talks of him possibly running for president. And this was one of the Democrats' big people who was like, keep in mind, 2008, he did not run for president. But remember during that time period, this was when everybody was looking to who will take on the mantle for the Democrats in the future. Is it going to be a party of Hillary Clinton and Clinton supporters? Is there going to be somebody new? Barack Obama showed up. Eliot Spitzer was that person in the wings that they were like, he could be the future of the party. Mm-hmm. He was always on TV when he prosecuted Wall Street, when he took down corruption. And he's involved in this scandal. And the thing is, you got him on wiretap. And it was so big. So the documentary is called Client 9. And it basically highlights and it shows the whole idea of like this kind of rise of Eliot Spitzer, who he is. Mm-hmm. And then it just documents the entire case of what he was doing, who the women were, and also the club itself. And how basically they found out about it. Mm-hmm. And it's just so amazing. There's like real news clips from it. It's one of those documentaries where it's like a slice of time when you're like, this happened? And it's like, they brought down, not just a governor, you brought down the governor of New York.
Yeah.
and how he didn't really go quietly.
All right. My number 2 movie is another documentary, Becoming Bond.
James Bond.
Yes, that Bond indeed. So,
any black ones in there?
Any black James Bonds? Mm-hmm. I mean, people want Idris to do it. He said no.
That's not what I asked. In this documentary?
Are there any black documentaries?
No, any black James Bonds in this documentary? Nobody?
No.
Not just all white guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just check.
So
step up your game, Bond.
So we're familiar with Sean Connery.
Never heard of him.
He was the first Bond.
Never heard of him.
He was the one who loved to beat ladies.
Ooh.
On camera talking about it.
Wow.
So wild that he was
Wow,
saying
you
stuff.
brought that up. You talk about me saying stuff.
He said it.
He said it to Barbara Walters.
He said it.
He said it with the conviction of a man who saw nothing wrong with it.
And let me not say he loved to do it, but he saw nothing wrong with doing it.
Yeah,
I mean, it could be one and the same, whatever. But definitely he whatever. But he's the first Bond. We also got Roger Moore. He's a little bit more laid back and kind of fun, gadgety Bond. You got...
that's my first introduction to Bond.
Okay.
Roger Moore.
There you go. You got...
Timothy Dalton. No, George Lazenby.
Let me tell my story in the way I want to tell it.
Thank
you. You do have Timothy Dalton, who was a little bit more serious and talked about... Bond was married. For Timothy Dalton, Bond was married. Mm-hmm. His wife died. He kind of went on revenge and went crazy. Whatever. To get justice for his dead wife. Then justice you got Pierce Brosnan, who was a little bit more goofy. He brought kind of the goofy thing back with Roger Moore. I don't
think he was goofy. I think the things around him were to a certain extent.
Sure.
I think Roger Moore was goofy.
Pierce Brosnan also did like windsurf through like the snow globe ice thing on a car.
That's not his fault.
That James Bond did it.
That was not his fault.
Okay. And then now we got Daniel Craig. I say all that to say the one
George Lazenby is not in it.
Let me finish.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry,
man. Let me finish my story and tell it the way I want to tell it. You have all those Bonds. The one that you don't talk about much is George Lazenby. Now, did you know what George Lazenby did before being Bond?
Yeah, he was like an Olympic...
He was a car salesman.
No, I thought he was a...
He was an Australian car salesman.
Really?
Yes.
Lies.
Not according to this documentary.
Okay.
They
didn't interview him, so how would we know that?
He is in the movie. That's what I'm saying. It's about him. It's about him becoming Bond because it's a wild story about how he became Bond because he was selling cars. And I don't want to give it away, but somebody with the Broccoli production who was in charge of Bond talked to him. They're like, I like this guy. He looked good. He looked, nice looking guy.
He wasn't an Olympic gold medalist?
I don't remember him being an Olympic gold medalist.
Just checking.
I know he was an Australian car salesman.
I'm just seeing if you're up on game.
And they liked him. They brought him in, but he wasn't really an actor. But apparently they thought that didn't matter. And they let him make a Bond movie.
Hey, man, you know what that says?
Yeah.
Keep chasing your dreams.
Yeah, but it's just a wild story. And when he talks, he kind of talks, this guy talks like, he tells these tall tales, but they're never malicious. So even though he may have stretched the truth, you don't really hate him too much because he's not like...
He's not braggadocious as far as like...
It's like his tall tales don't necessarily jeopardize anybody else or make anybody else look bad. So it's just like, that's just this dude talking. Fun documentary. Okay. Becoming Bond. There we go.
All right. So you went documentary. I'm not going that way. My third movie is called Assassination Nation.
Is this a book?
There's a book, but this ain't it. So this is, I'll read the tagline. So high school senior Lily and her 3 best friends live in a haze of text, posts, selfies, and chats. Just like the rest of the world, their small town gets turned upside down when an anonymous hacker starts to reveal personal messages and secrets of thousands of people. As anger erupts into full-blown violence, the 4 girls soon find themselves in a fight for their lives against an armed mob. Now, the reason why I like this movie, and now don't get me wrong, this is a very graphic movie. However,
everything you pick is probably going to be very graphic.
No, I picked a documentary that was educational.
I mean, there's probably somebody dies in it, I'm sure.
Yeah, but...
Yeah, see, there we go! Called it. Go ahead.
There's a lot of themes in this movie that I think is good for maybe somebody who's coming of age and as a high schooler, because basically what happens is, in this town in Texas, a principal's... somebody starts releasing secrets from the internet, whether it's selfies, naked pictures, or in one of them, the principal, his dirty laundry gets aired out. The town is in an uproar because of what is leaked out about the principal, and someone continues to leak these secrets, and everybody's on edge. And some people are of the mindset that they deserve that because they shouldn't have taken this picture, they shouldn't have posed naked, or shouldn't have said nude selfies or whatever. The girls are then in some way accused of being the ringleaders behind the dump.
Okay.
Because what happens is not just the principal, everybody's stuff gets leaked.
Okay.
So the whole town goes feral because nobody knows who did this. And it really brings up the whole idea behind what's appropriate to send, what's appropriate kind of relationships to have, but it also shows you how.
What was that book you brought up? With the guy they had the hood.
Private Eye.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's kind of like that. So Private Eye was kind of like the future of what happens when everybody's stuff from the internet gets dumped. This is like real time what would happen, and how we as a society would react.
Okay.
It's 4 girls. One of them is transgender, and that plays a very big part in how people even though it seems to some people that being transgender may seem natural, and these relationships to some people it's not, and that is brought up. How we treat women is brought up, and it's a very interesting film. I'm not gonna lie, even as jaded as I can be, I was like, ooh, whoa. But there's a lot of good things that happens in this movie, as far as like subject matter to have discussions. Me and Katie talked about it because as being a school teacher, I was like, well, what about this? What about this with kids? And she was like, oh yeah, that stuff happens. And I was like, what? I enjoyed it. The one thing that's weird about it is, again, it's in Texas, so everybody got guns. So I really enjoyed it. But again, I put the disclaimer that this is a violent movie, but it does bring up a lot of good fauna for, like, if you have a teenager, it's honestly a good movie to watch and be like, well, how would you deal with this? Okay. And there is a little bit of that pious, well, that would never happen to me because I never did it. Well, guess what, heifer? Your stuff got leaked too. And how do you deal with that? Okay. So that's was that number 4 or is that number 3? Number 3, Assassination Nation.
All right. My third one is another documentary. It's called Batman and Bill.
Oh, I've heard of this.
Yes, I figured you would have already seen it by now.
I did, but I was slightly intoxicated.
So. Okay, so
I don't remember.
Now you are the comic book expert among us. Everybody knows Bob Kane as the guy who created Batman.
But there's another guy.
Not so fast. There's a guy by the name of Bill Finger.
Bill Finger. Uncredited.
Yes, uncredited for years. But to my little knowledge of comics, he kind of helped really bring Batman to life.
Yep.
And for a while, DC and everybody was kind of like, nah, it's just Bob Kane. And this story kind of documents
the effort to
get credit to the Finger family,
because DC is notorious back in the day. Now they may be a little better now, but DC was notorious for not giving people credit for the creations they made for financial reasons.
Right.
Because they felt like if you gave people credit, then you would have to give them money.
Right.
And they notoriously fought the Schuster family about Superman. So they weren't about to do it again with Bill Finger.
Yeah. And I don't want to spoil what happens. You can read and figure out kind of what happens about whatever. But it's just, it chronicles, because the guy who actually making it, the documentarian or whatever, is that what they call it, the documentarian? The filmmaker, it chronicles his effort to get justice for the Finger family. And it kind of has a real life, a nice time of, I can't remember, I want to say this is 2017, but I can't remember what year it was actually filmed in when it was released. Maybe around Justice League coming out, or Batman vs Superman. I can't remember, but there's a nice beginning, middle, and end about the stuff that the Finger family went through just to get justice for Bill Finger.
I think one of the things that I loved, I hadn't finished all of it. One of the things I loved about the movie was, it doesn't matter if you were a Batman fan or if you were. It really doesn't matter. It was, from what I remember of it, it was a great story because it was an undiscovered story, and you ever watch a documentary and you're like, you know what happened to this person was bad, but you don't care because the person was kind of a tool. You didn't get that sense from Bill Finger. You never got the sense that Bill Finger was.
Everybody liked Bill Finger.
Everybody who spoke about him, it was glowing reviews, and so it almost made me mad that this happened to him. But then I was like, it's DC, so of course. And I say that when I am a huge Batman fan. DC it's not unique to DC. It's not unique. These companies have been doing that for years.
That's why Image exists, right? So these creators could get their own.
So these guys left the companies and started their. I mean, if they hadn't have been doing it, we would have never got Image Comics. So I hate to say that it's good that they did do it.
Yeah.
So is this number 4?
This is number 4 for you, yeah.
All right. So my number 4 is since you mentioned comics, I'm going to mention a movie. It was a book called I Kill Giants. It's about a little girl dealing with some real life things, and she believes in the little town that she lives in that there are giants in the world, and she's the only one who can see them and kill them.
Okay.
The original graphic novel was written by, I want to say, Joe Casey, and let me make sure, because I want to say it's Joe Casey, but it could be. I could be wrong. So you got Joe Casey, and then you've got Ken Nomura. So they're the original creators of the graphic novel, the book. Then what you have is this movie was adapted, and it starred your girl, Rosario Dawson. Okay. She's a nurse. No, sorry, not a nurse. She's in the movie. I'm not going to spoil it. So basically this little girl is dealing with a lot. And she's going to school. She's bullied a little bit. She has one friend. Mm-hmm. And she believes that it's her job to protect the town and to make sure that she's the one who kills these giants. This is definitely for kids. I would say not to give it away, but if you're dealing with trauma, if you're trying to talk to kids about some hard conversations, this is the movie. Everybody in this movie was amazing. The book itself is amazing. So I don't want to just say the movie's good, and I don't want to say the book is better. Both of them are amazing in their own little ways. The little girl who plays, I want to say I'm trying to, because it's been a while since I watched it, but I've read the book quite often. So it's hard for me to remember who exactly is in it. Oh man, I said Rosario Dawson. Guess what?
It's not?
It's not. Guess
Good
what
job.
it is?
I don't know. Zoe Saldana?
Yep.
Wow.
Man, it's been a while.
Just say stuff, huh?
Because she's in another movie that. And anyway, so.
Man, that's the best.
I can't tell you how much I really like this movie.
So much that you don't know the people in it.
Yeah, I didn't really care about her.
Okay. Clearly.
The little girl in it. Mm-hmm. It's remember we talked about in Star Trek the little girl Lulu Wilson and how infectious she was, and how the same thing happens in this movie. You just fall in love with the character, and you want good things to happen to her. Mm-hmm. And if you like the movie, go pick up the graphic novel, Joe Casey. It's not too thick, but it's a very, honestly, I cannot recommend this enough. And again, I picked a kid's one. Ha.
Sure. Okay. So my number 4, surprise, surprise, another documentary. This one is Too Funny to Fail. It kind of chronicles. It chronicles the rise and quick fall and failure of the Dana Carvey show.
Oh yeah, I know this one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they had a ton of people who were like comedic geniuses right for the show.
Colbert was on there. I want to say Colbert and what's the other Stephen? Stephen Colbert and then and Steve Carell. Sorry.
Dial?
Remember the show Stephen Dial? Yes. Why not? Colbert and Carell. Steve Carell, Stephen Colbert. They were both on the show, and it has a bunch of people who are kind of like Daily Show alums as well. And everybody talks about like the Eric Andre show a lot now. Mm-hmm. And Eric Andre, I think, is a great show. But
really?
I think it's weird, and I like that.
Eric Andre pushes the envelope that I'm surprised. I've listened to him do interviews, and he's like, yeah, some people have gotten mad and wanted to fight him.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he's still alive.
Yeah, I think
the vomit episode where he vomited, where he acted like he vomited was actually oatmeal.
Yeah.
I am shocked he was not murdered for that.
Yeah, I think his show is weird, and I like it that it's kind of goofy and quirky and stuff. Yeah. But before Eric Andre and stuff, and you have your what's the Mr. Show with Bob and David, shows like that. You had the Dana Carvey show.
Yep.
and it was just a weird show. It was definitely too edgy for TV at the time. It'd probably do fine now.
But probably would just be middle of the road now.
Yeah. I want to say it aired during prime time, and the stuff they were doing was wild. Great show, great documentary, and killed before its time. Too Funny to Fail, about the Dana Carvey show. That was my number 4.
That's your 4?
Yeah.
So this would be 5. All right. So my 5th and last movie is, I love this movie to the point where I am going to own this. My movie is this. I want to make sure I get this right. The Standoff at Sparrow Creek. So this is actually another movie you can watch with kids. I wouldn't recommend it, but
none of your movies or anything you ever recommended should be watched with kids.
Whoa! I Kill Giants and Death Note.
I stand by what I said.
All right, so here's the tagline. A former cop turned militiaman investigates a shooting at a police funeral. So James Dale Badge, or is it James Badge Dale? Which one is it? I cannot remember. I'm bad with names. James Badge Dale. Okay. He plays a former cop named Gannon. He is living in the middle of nowhere. He's living in a trailer, and he hears what he thinks are gunshots. He gets on his, he goes back into his trailer, and he finds out that there has been a mass shooting. He goes to a storage facility where he meets up with some fellow militia members. They basically are piecing together information about this shooting that took place. The shooting took place at a police officer's funeral. They are part of a larger network of other militiamen, and the whole idea is, as they go to check out their munitions and everything, they realize they're missing an assault rifle. They're the only ones because, based on their rules and their regulations, it's a rotating responsibility to keep up with these weapons, and these men are the only ones who had access to it.
Okay.
So they realize the killer who did this mass shooting is among them. James Badge Dale, who plays Gannon, is a former police officer who's tasked with figuring out who did it. Because 2 things is going to happen. If they don't figure out who did it and give the person up, the police are going to come and possibly wipe them out. And 2, they're connected to another set of militias who are hearing this information and could possibly launch an attack in self-defense against major institutions in the country. So it really, a movie came out in 2018, so it really does bring up this whole idea of gun rights and these people being law-abiding citizens, and also having all of these munitions, and is it right? Should they have this? But it's this slow pace. There's not a lot, honestly, I don't think there's any special effects. It's all shot in basically 2 locations. This one scene that you see in the woods where Gannon gets his own gun and goes in, and then everybody shows up at the storage facility, and the interactions that Gannon has with all the other militia members. So basically Gannon's tasked with sitting down with each militia member and figuring out where they were, what their motivation, and this is the thing, all of them have motivations to shoot up a cop's funeral, which really, you're like, wait, what? So you're basically looking at all of these people and wondering which one did it and who could have possibly pulled the trigger. And then you're realizing, okay, if he didn't do it, then he had to have done it. It's Hitchcockian in the sense of who did what, why did they do, and it's really good. The ending is amazing, and you're sitting there and you're like, whew. And then you realize there are these groups really out there. But it's really well done. James Badge Dale is really good in it, and I want to say that, because correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't he? There's a guy who used to be a child actor in here, and where did he go? Correct me if I'm wrong. Where is he? Ah, here it is. Where do you remember him from? Brian Garrity. Wasn't he a kid actor? Wasn't he like young? Didn't he come on the scene when he was younger?
I don't.
You don't remember him?
I don't.
I'm trying to remember, but Brian Garrity is in this, and he Garrity. Is Garrett? How do you say it? I don't know. Anyway, friend of the show. He's amazing in it. Okay. Everybody is amazing in it, but there's some great. He was a real big standout, but my biggest standout was Happy Anderson. Happy Anderson plays. I don't want to give it away, but his character. I felt for him when you find out his backstory and why he's in this group and why he is the way he is. You really feel for him, and everybody has their particular. And you start to see these men, and you realize that they're representations of other people, real people. But then you realize they're not nutcases. You realize that they have reasons for why they are the way they are, and everybody is kind of looking for their own little group, so to speak. But man, the tension because while they're trying to figure it out, there's police cars driving around, and they're like, so they have. CB and they're like, turn the lights off, and it's just really the slow burning. So that's my one. The Standoff at Sparrow Creek. Okay, that's my 5.
My last one is Fast Color. It has who's in it? Gugu Mbatha-Raw.
Ah, I love her. She was also in the Bad Cloverfield Project movie.
Yeah, she was also in Belle. She was also in.
I didn't see Belle.
She was in. Was it The Lights? All the Lights? Something Color Lights? Some movie I saw.
She's been in a lot of stuff.
She was in Doctor Who.
Was
of course,
she?
Everybody's in Doctor Who. Yeah, she was the sister to.
Shoot, we're in Doctor Who.
Martha Jones in season 3 of the reboot of Doctor Who. It also has Lorraine Toussaint and your boy David Strahan or whatever. How you pronounce
it? Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's about a woman who has powers. And she doesn't necessarily have control over the powers. And a lot of times when you see superhero movies or people with powers, it's always great that they have these powers. For her, it's not.
No, it's not.
She has a daughter, too, who she is estranged for reasons you find out in the movie. I think it's a very well done movie. It moves pretty quickly. It's not too long. Doesn't overstay its welcome. It's shot extremely well. Great actors in it. Good movie. I'd recommend it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Fast Color about to be a TV show? They're optioning that for TV.
I don't know.
Let me look.
This ain't about shows. This is about movies.
I understand that, but I'm just saying if you like the story behind it. Yeah. Let's see. Yep. Fast Color series adaptation set up at Amazon. Cool. I remember hearing about it because it was on a list. You had told me about it. And when you told me, matter of fact, right in the same time frame when you told me about the movie, they talked about it was going to be a show. Okay. Yeah.
So those are our 5 movies apiece.
And again, they're not like, because I want to say there's a couple of Mission Impossibles on here. I mean,
there's a bunch of stuff to watch. These are just things you might not think of.
Yeah, these are the ones that maybe have flown onto your radar that you might not have checked out, because I personally forgot that the Bill Finger, because I watched it. And I was drinking a little bit. I was doing some stuff. I was doing all kind of stuff, man. I was probably playing PlayStation at the same time. I was probably on in the background. So I've forgotten about it until you reminded me. So yeah, check them out. Let us know. Let us know if there's some deep cuts, B-sides on Hulu.
B-sides we should be looking at.
Should be looking at. Yeah. We might have seen it. We might not have. Hey, we listen to you. Because you're important.
Okay. Like, comment, subscribe. For this.
For more of this foolishness.
Yeah, you can find us here on YouTube, also Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, of course, WOTX.com, and we're out.